The year 2017 was a pretty big deal for anybody following Nintendo. Really, if you played video games at all, this was a pretty exciting year, because this was the year that Nintendo released their most ambitious handheld gaming console yet, the new 2DS XL. Of course, they had to release the Nintendo Switch a couple of months before the new 2DS XL to really get the hype going, and right after this legendary handheld was released, so was an unforgettable game. Hey Pikmin. In fact, it was so unforgettable, everybody forgot about it. I'm not really sure that anybody ever knew about it. I'm pretty sure for most people, it was kind of a, whoa. Whoa! Not only did this game release for what was then considered an old washed up version of this pinnacle of Nintendo gaming consoles, but it was also a spin-off of a beloved Nintendo series that nobody asked for. New Pikmin game. What? 2D platform. What? This game could have done literally everything right, but it never could have won, just because of what it was and when it was. But now that whole 2017 moment is over, let's give this game a fair chance. It definitely didn't get one when it released. Hey Pikmin is a 2D puzzle platformer where you play as Olimar, who, yeah, actually crashed again on an alien planet. And just like every other time, this planet is basically Earth way after human civilization ended. And of course, these guys are here again too. This game's different though. They removed a feature that was in the other Pikmin games that everybody complained about. The Z-axis. Also the timer, which was kind of the point of Pikmin. That's not to say that there isn't any valuable gameplay here though. It's actually a fun enough game despite the differences from the main Pikmin games. The gameplay mostly consists of using your Pikmin to solve basic puzzles to get treasure and progress through the level. These puzzles are really not that tough for the most part. You can throw your Pikmin at wherever you tap on the bottom screen with a stylus, and that's pretty much it. I actually really like how simple the control scheme is. It's just left and right on the D-pad and tap the screen with the stylus. Or if you're left-handed for some reason, you can use these buttons as a D-pad and use your left hand for the stylus. There's also enemies that you've got to throw your Pikmin at, and it's honestly kind of fun to take them down. The goal of the game is to get 30,000 Sparklium, which is your fuel, in order to get off the planet and back home. You get Sparklium like coins from a Mario game, and by collecting pieces of treasure that are spread out through all the levels. These pieces of treasure are my favorite part of the game. After collecting them, you can look at them in the log and read the name and description that Olimar and his ship came up with. This became my main motivation for finding new pieces of treasure, not for the Sparklium, but for these cool little models and fun descriptions. That's not to say that this game does nothing wrong. Oh, it does plenty wrong. Like the art style. I know that's kind of a subjective thing, but this isn't the Pikmin art style. Pikmin's levels are meant to look realistic, like how most of these pieces of treasure do, but instead we get this generic, washed out, painterly look. I'm sure some people really like how it looks, and don't get me wrong, it's not ugly, it's just not Pikmin. And I understand that there are some limitations to the hardware, and maybe that's why they opted for this art style, but I believe that the 3DS is capable of GameCube level graphics on a small scale like this. Or maybe not. I was running like 5 FPS half the time with the current art style, which is either because this game was made for the new 3DS, which has a better CPU, or because I've dropped this DS a few hundred times. There's also this feature called the Pikmin Park, which serves as a way to earn Sparklium idly while playing levels. I don't really get the point of this, since the Pikmin don't seem to make any progress while you're not playing the game, but I guess it's something to do outside of the main gameplay that you can make direct progress through playing levels, which is a decent idea. Until you finish a level with 600 Sparklium, and in the meantime the Pikmin have found this. Wow, thanks. Now just do that 999 more times. Eventually you start to earn a little more from the Pikmin Park, but still not enough to justify it existing. You know, this whole Sparklium system sounds a bit tedious, but it actually makes for a pretty good incentive to collect this stuff. After all, that's how you beat the game, right? No, of course not. That's how it's laid out for you when you start the game. But if you get 30,000 Sparklium early, your ship remembers that actually you need some vague part that's in the last level. Oh, so it's just a normal game that you beat by completing all the levels. Then why did you tell me to get 30,000 Sparklium? Sure, you get health boosts at certain tiers and your jetpack can hover a little further, but the difficulty is low enough that the health boosts aren't even noticeable until the last sectors. Plus, getting jetpack upgrades isn't a good thing. That just means that the levels are going to have longer gaps to fly across. That doesn't make anything easier. You just gotta remember, oh yeah, I can fly across that long gap now. The 30,000 Sparklium goal works great for getting you to go after every ounce of it that you can until you reach the max and get nothing for it. Then it feels totally useless. I went the last few levels without getting any of the treasure. Why would I? Yeah, the descriptions in the log are great, but I've missed a good bit of the treasure early on. Why stop now? And what if I got to the end and didn't have enough Sparklium? Would my ship tell me to go replay levels over and over until I do? This game's also got a few annoying snags that most puzzle games like this have. You've got to play that annoying mind game with the developers every time you see 2 doors. Is this the optional side door with all the treasure? Or is it this one? I don't know, this looks pretty optional and side-ish. This doesn't really feel like a main path. It's kind of out of the way. Then you go through it and it keeps going far enough that now you're pretty sure it's the main path, so you go back and check the other one out and it goes kind of far too, so now you've just got to take your chances with one and oh! You just fell down a pit, and now you know this is the main path, and there's no going back to that other door. But hey, maybe it was just some sparklium, not actually a piece of treasure. Then you find a piece of treasure and it fills the second slot instead of the first one, which is just the worst feeling ever. This game can be frustrating every once in a while, but there's a lot that I like about it. Overall, I would consider it a decently good game. It's not amazing, I'm not sure I'll ever really play through it again, but there's 3,000 other DS games, so I don't really need to. This game gives you a good 7 to 10 hours of playtime, which is pretty good for a DS game. But I personally prefer games like Mario Kart or Smash Bros, something that you can get all kinds of fun out of in just 10 minutes. Playing a race in Mario Kart or a match in Smash Bros is usually more fun than a level of Hey Pikmin. But of course, Hey Pikmin has things that those games don't. It's still Pikmin, even if it doesn't look like it. This game certainly has character. Sure, the art style is a little weak in my opinion, but the soundtrack, gameplay, and especially this log menu are completely enjoyable, and I think they all fit in with the other Pikmin games pretty well. If you're looking for a decent puzzle platformer to play on a plane or road trip or just at your house, this is definitely one to look at. It strikes a pretty good balance between depth and simplicity and has plenty of content to offer. If you're like me on the other hand and prefer quicker, more bite-sized fun, then this game might feel like it drags on. If you really like Pikmin though, it could be worth checking out, even if only for the log. So, I guess Hey Pikmin wasn't as bad as people didn't give it credit for. There's a lot of DS games, so it's important to know which ones to get and which ones that are just not worth the money and shelf space. Hopefully I helped fill you in a bit on whether or not Hey Pikmin is for you. I appreciate you watching. Thanks.